All right, welcome to another deep dive. This time, we're looking into something that I know a lot of you have been curious about. Specifically, we're going to unpack why car insurance is so pricey for younger drivers.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
It is. It can be super frustrating, right?
Yeah.
So we've got a great article here from My Insurance Advice UK. It came out October 5th, 2024, and the title kind of says it all. Why car insurance for young drivers is more expensive and how to combat it. So that's our mission today, to dig into those insights and figure out how to fight back.
I like that.
Yeah.
Combat those prices.
Yes, combat those prices. Now, one thing that struck me right away in this article is that it really dives into how insurance companies think. Like, they're not just out to get young people, it's all about assessing risk.
Yeah, they're all about the numbers. It's a business at the end of the day.
Right, exactly. So let's get into that. What makes a younger driver so risky in their eyes?
Well, the article lays out three biggies: inexperience, accident rates, and their driving history.
Okay, so inexperience, we're going to get that right. You're newer to driving, but the article goes deeper than that. Like, you don't have the experience in all kinds of road conditions or crazy weather.
Exactly. Or reacting in emergencies. Things happen so fast on the road, and when you're new at it, you haven't built those quick reflexes.
Oh, tell me about it. I remember when I first started driving, if it suddenly rained hard, I felt like I was in some action movie. It takes time to just stay calm and know what to do in those moments.
Totally. And, that all ties into the higher accident rates they talk about. The stats are pretty eye-opening, especially for drivers between 16 and 24. Way more accidents compared to older folks.
Yeah, that is a little scary to hear. But is it all just about being new? The article also talked about night driving and having passengers. Is that right?
Yep. Statistically speaking, younger drivers get into more accidents when it's dark out or if they've got friends in the car. It's probably a combo of stuff. Speeding, distractions, and, that peer pressure can be tough to resist.
Oh, yeah. Those late night drives with your buddies can definitely get a little wild. I can see how that would be a red flag for insurance companies.
For sure.
Okay, but what about the driving history piece? How does that affect things?
Think of it this way. When you're brand new to driving, insurance companies don't have much data on you. They can't see your track record to predict if you'll be a safe driver. So they got to go with what the stats say, and unfortunately, those averages aren't in a young driver's favor. It's like starting from scratch, you got to prove yourself over time.
So it's not just your age, but the fact that they don't have info on you, so they assume the worst?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And that's why those starting costs are higher. But the good news is, it can change. The more years you drive safely, no accidents or tickets, the more data you give them to show you're responsible.
Okay, that makes sense. It means you have some control over it, right? It's not just about being young, it's about showing them you're a good driver.
Exactly. Build that track record. Now, we talked about age and experience, but there's another layer here that people might not think about much. What you drive.
Oh, the car itself. I bet that makes a big difference too. I mean, my first car was this tiny little hatchback that could barely make it up a hill. I doubt anyone saw me as a speed demon in that thing.
Huh. Probably not. And this article backs that up. They point out that high-performance cars, your sports cars or those fancy luxury models, they automatically get hit with higher premiums. It's all about that power under the hood and the potential to, go fast.
Yeah, makes sense. If you're driving a car that can hit 60 in 3 seconds, they're going to assume you might be tempted to try it out once in a while.
Right. And it's not just about speed. Cars that are popular with thieves, they cost more to insure too. So that super trendy car everyone's going crazy for might come with a secret price tag in the form of high premiums.
So it's not just about driving safely, but also picking a car that the insurance company sees as less risky.
Absolutely. And here's where it gets even crazier. Where you live can affect those rates too. The article talks about how urban areas with more traffic and maybe higher crime rates usually have higher premiums than out in the country.
Seriously? Like, my zip code could change how much I pay. That doesn't seem very fair.
It might feel that way, but think back to that risk thing. They use all these calculations and look at trends to figure out where accidents or theft are more likely to happen.
Wow, it's like this whole hidden world of data and numbers that most people don't even know about.
Right. And there's even more to it. State laws can play a part too, so it gets even more complex.
So it's not just about being a safe driver, it's about what you drive, where you live, and even what state you're in.
It's a lot to take in for sure. But understanding these factors is the first step towards getting some control over your insurance. So now that we've got those basics down, maybe we can move on to the part everyone's really waiting for. how to actually fight back against those high prices.
Okay, yeah, let's get into that.
It's easy to feel like you're stuck with those crazy high prices, but honestly, you have more power than you think. The article has some awesome tips on how to take charge and maybe even lower those costs a bit. Ready to hear them?
Oh yeah, lay them on me. I'm all ears.
All right, first up, and this might seem obvious, but shop around. Don't just go with the first quote you get. Different insurance companies use different ways to figure out their rates. So what's expensive with one could be totally reasonable with another.
That makes sense. It's like anything else. You wouldn't just buy the first pair of shoes you see without checking other stores first, right?
Exactly. And with insurance, those price differences can be huge. Plus, nowadays, there are all those websites that do the comparing for you. You just plug in your info once and boom, you get a bunch of quotes side by side. Easy peasy.
That's awesome. So technology is on our side, but is it really that simple? Just compare those first quotes and pick the lowest.
Well, that's a great start, but the article says you should go a step further. Actually talk to those insurance companies. Don't be afraid to call them up. Explain what you're looking for and ask if they can match or even beat a competitor's price.
Whoa, really? I never thought about actually negotiating my insurance rates. Do they really go for that?
You'd be surprised. Many of them are willing to work with you, especially if you get a good driving record, no accidents or anything. It shows you're responsible.
That's pretty cool. So we've got shopping around and being brave enough to haggle a bit. What other tricks do we have up our sleeves?
Well, this one's kind of futuristic sounding.
Yeah.
Black box insurance. Basically, they put a little device in your car that tracks how you drive.
Hold up. They're watching my every move on the road. Sounds a little creepy.
I know, right? But it's all about data. The device sees things like how fast you go, how hard you brake, even what times of day you're driving. It's like they're trying to get a really detailed picture of your driving style.
So instead of judging me based on what most young drivers do, they're looking at how I actually drive.
Exactly. And here's the best part. If you drive safely and responsibly, you can actually get some serious discounts.
So it's like having a personal driving coach right there in your car, always pushing you to be better. And it can actually save you money. I kind of like that idea.
Me too. It rewards good behavior. The article also talks about something that might seem a little old school, driver's ed courses.
Oh, yeah. I remember taking one of those before I got my license. Lots of sitting in a classroom watching videos about, like, the dangers of drunk driving. Not exactly the most thrilling experience. Did it really help, though?
It might seem basic, but taking an official course shows insurance companies that you're serious about learning how to drive safely. And they like that, so it can lead to discounts.
So it's not just about learning the rules, it's about showing them that you're taking it seriously and less likely to be a risk.
Clever.
Right.
It's all about being proactive. And speaking of being proactive, the article gets into something that a lot of people find confusing. The no claims bonus.
Oh yeah, the no claims bonus. I've heard that term thrown around and I'm not totally sure what it means.
It's actually pretty straightforward. Basically, every year you drive without making a claim, you get a discount on your insurance. The longer you go without accidents, the bigger the discount.
So it's like a reward for being a good driver.
Exactly. Like a little bonus for staying safe on the road. And it can add up big time over the years, saving you a ton of money.
That's awesome. But what if I do get into an accident? Do I lose all those sweet discounts?
Well, that's where this thing called NCB protection comes in. It's an extra thing you can add to your policy, and it protects your no claims bonus even if you do have to make a claim.
Wait a minute. So even if I have an accident, I get to keep my discount. How does that work?
It's kind of like insurance for your insurance. It gives you a little extra security, especially when you're still getting experience behind the wheel. Of course, it usually costs a little more, but it could be worth it for the peace of mind and those potential savings down the line.
That's super helpful information, like a safety net, just in case something happens.
Exactly. It's all about managing those risks. Now, we've talked about a lot of different strategies, but remember, car insurance isn't one size fits all. The article really emphasizes that you need to understand the types of coverage out there and choose the ones that make sense for you.
Okay, now we're getting into the nitty-gritty. Can we break down those different types of coverage?
Sure thing. Let's start with the most basic one, and it's usually mandatory liability coverage. It's there to protect you financially if you cause an accident that hurts someone else or damages their property.
So it's about taking responsibility for your actions on the road and making sure others are taken care of if it's your fault.
Exactly. It protects you from lawsuits and big financial headaches. And here's something interesting for young drivers. The article suggests thinking about getting higher liability limits than what your state requires.
Really? Why would I need more than the minimum?
Well, you're young, you've got a whole lot of life ahead of you, which means a lot of earning potential too. If you were to cause a really bad accident with high medical costs, those minimum limits might not be enough to cover everything.
Wow, I never thought about it like that. So having higher limits could protect me from a huge financial burden down the road.
You got it. It's like planning for the worst case scenario. Now, let's move on to another big difference in car insurance. Comprehensive versus third-party insurance.
Okay, I've heard those terms, but I always get them mixed up. What's the difference again?
So comprehensive is the more complete package. It covers damage to your own car, even if the accident wasn't your fault. Think stuff like theft, vandalism, hailstorms, even a tree falling on your car.
Wow, that's a lot. So it's like a safety net for your car no matter what happens.
You got it. Gives you a lot of peace of mind, especially if you have a new car or one that's worth a good chunk of change.
But I'm guessing that comes with a higher price tag, right?
Yeah, usually it costs more than third-party insurance, which is more basic. Third-party only covers the damage you cause to other people or their stuff, not your own car.
So it's basically the bare minimum coverage, right?
Pretty much. It's the cheapest option, but it also doesn't cover as much. The article says to think about how much your car is worth when deciding between these two.
Makes sense. If my car is older and not worth a ton, maybe third party is enough. But if I've got a newer car that I put a lot of money into, that comprehensive coverage starts to look pretty good.
Exactly. It's all about finding the right balance for your situation. But wait, there's more. The article talks about some other coverage options you might want to consider too.
More. I'm already feeling like my brain is full. But all right, hit me with it. What else is out there?
One that's especially relevant for young drivers is collision coverage. It covers damage to your car if you hit another vehicle or object, no matter who's at fault. Super helpful if you're driving in heavy traffic or places where accidents are more common.
So even if I'm not the one who messed up, it still helps me out if something happens.
Yep. Can save you a bunch of money on repairs if you get in a fender bender or something worse.
Okay, I'm starting to see how all these different coverages work together. What about medical expenses? Does car insurance cover that?
Good question. That's where personal injury protection, or PIP, comes in. PIP covers medical costs for you and anyone in your car if you get hurt in an accident, no matter who caused it. Super important if you don't have health insurance or if yours doesn't fully cover car accidents.
So it's like an extra layer of protection for your health just in case. I feel like I'm learning so much about car insurance right now.
That's awesome. It's all about having the info to make smart choices. But hold on, there's one more type of coverage I got to mention. It's especially important for young drivers. Uninsured, underinsured motorist coverage.
Whoa, that's a mouthful. What in the world is that?
It's there to protect you if you get hit by someone who either doesn't have any insurance or doesn't have enough to cover the damage.
Wait, people drive around without insurance? Isn't that illegal?
It is in most places, but unfortunately some people still do it. And if you get into an accident with one of them, you could end up paying for everything yourself.
That sounds like a total nightmare.
It definitely can be. But that's where uninsured, underinsured motorist coverage comes in. It makes sure you're protected, even if the other driver isn't doing the right thing.
Okay, that makes me feel a lot better, like an extra shield in case you run into someone who's not following the rules.
Exactly. It's all about minimizing those unexpected risks.
Wow, we covered a ton of ground here.
I know, right? My head is spinning with all this insurance talk.
It can be a lot to take in. But the key is to take it step by step. Start with the basics and then dig a little deeper into the different coverages and ways to save money.
You're right. Got to break it down and not get overwhelmed by all the details. But even with all this info, I still feel like I could use a little help figuring it all out.
And that's where the article gives us one final piece of advice. Talk to the experts.
You mean like insurance brokers and agents?
Yep, they can be a lifesaver, especially for young drivers who are new to all this. They can answer your questions, explain all the confusing stuff in the policies, and help you find the best coverage for what you need.
So we've talked about shopping around, all those different coverages, even those black box things. But yeah, talking to an expert sounds like a good move.
It really can be. Especially when you're first starting out, it can be super helpful. They can explain all that confusing insurance jargon, help you compare different policies, and might even know about discounts you wouldn't find on your own.
Kind of like those secret menu items at some restaurants. You got to know the right insider tricks.
Exactly. And insurance agents, they're like those insiders. They've seen it all, and they can walk you through it. Plus, they can even help you negotiate better rates. It's like having someone on your team who knows the game.
Okay, I'm sold. Find an insurance expert is going on my to-do list right now. But before we wrap up this deep dive, there was one thing in that article that really got me thinking.
How was that?
It mentioned how where you live can make a big difference in your insurance cost. And it just got me wondering, like, how much could you save by moving even a little bit? Could switching zip codes actually make a difference in those premiums?
That's a great question. And it really shows you how complicated those calculations are that they use. It wouldn't surprise me at all if you could find some savings just by tweaking your address. Imagine moving a few blocks and saving hundreds of bucks a year.
Right. It's like a whole other level to this car insurance puzzle that I hadn't even thought about before.
It definitely adds another layer of complexity.
This whole deep dive has really opened my eyes to all the things that go into those insurance costs.
Well, that's what we're all about here at the Deep Dive, right? Digging deeper and uncovering those hidden layers.
Mission accomplished. I feel so much more informed now and way less stress about figuring this whole car insurance thing out.
That's awesome to hear. Remember, knowledge is power, especially when it comes to insurance.
Couldn't agree more. Well, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive. We've covered a lot of ground, from why younger drivers are seen as risky to all those different coverages and how to find those hidden discounts. We even got into the world of insurance experts and those mysterious location-based prices.
Yeah, we went deep.
We did. Big thanks to you for all your insights and expertise.
My pleasure. Always happy to share what I know and help people make smart choices.
And to all you listeners out there, remember, car insurance doesn't have to be this big, scary mystery. With a little bit of knowledge and some effort, you can find the right coverage that works for you and your budget.
And you might even save some money along the way.
Exactly. Until next time, stay curious, keep learning, and may your insurance premiums always be low.